The Chippewa Cree are taught that water is sacred. It's the source of everything. I go to college to study environmental science. I'm investigating the toxicity in our water supply, but it's not just a science project. If I can help save my land, maybe I can help save my people. Why did you go to college?
The American Indian College Fund, educating the mind and spirit.
Healing is an everyday job that you have to do. It's not only for 1 minute or 2 minutes or 5 hours. It's not like that. Healing has to do with 24-hour job. It's what we call the holistic healing. A holistic healing that we talk about, it's the mind, the body, the emotion, and you have to put those 3 dimensions and put it around with your spirit. We can never heal without our spirit. Our spirit is the one that's the most magic thing in our life, is that we were all born with spirit. The spirit that we carry is the Creator Spirit. The Creator Spirit, He gives us that spirit from Himself into all of us so that we can live on this earth for Him.
It's hard for us to believe that ancient peoples knew more about their world than we know about ours, but they probably did. Life was simpler then. There was less to know, more to believe. 5,000 years ago, before words and alphabets existed, living histories were etched as permanent chronicles on the walls of time. We think, or we presume, that our knowledge has not only caught up with theirs, but surpasses it. We think we know how they lived and how they died. We think we know. But those primitive peoples may have known more about healing and preventing disease and staying well than we give them credit for. Their medicine was a combination of faith and blind luck and relying on the good earth, relying on what was there. What nature provided was all there was. There was no corner drugstore, no medical specialist. Those luxuries would come a few thousand years later. They knew what would keep them from getting sick and what potions would ease the pains of snakebite and rheumatism and childbirth, and what would heal the wounds of arrows and gunshots and other scars of battles and daily living. Centuries of trial and error taught them what leaves and herbs and roots and smoke and heat and faith could do. They knew what could cure them and what could kill them. It was natural healing. And now, centuries later, the world is returning to it. Natural healing, just one of many choices available today. We're in the middle of an interesting contradiction. We know we have the most advanced medical system in the world, with exotic machines and drug therapies that couldn't have even been imagined 100 years ago, or even 50 years ago. And yet, there's a tendency to go back to old approaches. Why? For many reasons. Medical care has become too expensive, too impersonal, and people are searching for alternatives.
Well, herbal healing has been around for basically thousands of years. It was the primary medicine used by man. And probably a lot of it has been done by experiment, trying a leaf and seeing if it felt better, or watching certain animals taking certain plants and then trying that also. Empirically, we learned which herbs were good for which conditions. And today what we're finding is a revival of all that medicine.
The American Medical Association for many years was very much against many of the herbal remedies, many of the alternative or complementary forms of therapy and they pretty much put them over in a category akin to quackery. I think they're changing their views because they're looking at what people are doing. They're looking at the fact that many people have used these remedies and paid for them out of their pocket, I might add.
$14 billion a year is spent on alternative medicine in the United States. $14 billion that people don't tell their doctors or insurance companies about. And the figure is growing. So much so that many physicians, in addition to the treatments they provide, now recommend alternative methods because they work, because they make sense, and many times they cost less. About half of the adults between the ages of 25 and 49 have turned to some form of alternative therapy at least once in the last year.
I've always been a little bit chagrined by the fact that we call it alternative and we call the kind of medicine I was trained in traditional medicine. But when you consider that some of these practices are literally thousands and thousands of years old, it kind of makes you wonder what is traditional and what isn't traditional.
We're going back to what it was, the basics. And when you look at medicines, and especially drugs or pharmacology types of things, it's like we used to use roots, barks, berries, herbs, things. Then they said, no, you can't do that, you can't use that, that's heathenism, that's paganism, it's not right, it's not clean, whatever. Then they start using drugs, they start synthesizing these drugs and these derivatives from these natural things. And now you see in today's world, we're actually going back. Oh yeah, well, let's use these roots, these barks, these berries, these herbs that have been there all along, and again, what American Indian people knew and still know how to utilize today.
If you go back to this United States and back to Withering, he was a physician early in the colonies who found digitalis, foxglove, and we use it for heart failure still and for controlling heart rate. And legend has it that he got the remedy from a, quote, witch, and it had 17 different things in a tonic, and he teased them apart until he found the active ingredient.
Well, the natives of the still undiscovered New World of America were creating their vast knowledge of health and healing. Acupuncture was being developed in China. Needles inserted in one part of the body alleviate pain in other parts of the body and balance the flow of energy. Seems strange to us, but it works. 3,000 years ago in India, Ayurveda was developing, treating the whole person with diet, yoga, and meditation, and a blending of body, mind, and spirit. Are these and other alternatives like chiropractic, homeopathy, and spirituality at odds with each other, or do they complement each other?
I incorporate energy balancing in my practice through the use of hands-on, which we have positive and negative contacts within the body. And this corresponds with the old ancient Chinese art of acupuncture, balancing meridians within the body of positive and negative energy flows to heal the body through a natural method.
The World Health Organization is really encouraging all the countries of the world to adopt or to encourage more the tradition of herbal medicines, to make sure that it survives and that it thrives for many reasons. For example, having drugs that cost $4 a pill, where you have to take it 2 or 3 times a day in third world countries, how can they afford it? As herbal medicine that's grown there, that's actually growing in the wild where it can be harvested, oftentimes can do the same thing in terms of healing the person.
The secret, the reality, has always been to use what was there.
Long before Western medicine had a pill to give you, indigenous people from all over the earth have been taking natural plants. The Chinese, the Africans, the Indians, and of course the Native Americans have all relied on everything that grows in a full circle. My name is Ruby Wind Spirit, and I come from a matriarchal society where the medicine and the traditions are passed from grandmother to mother to daughter. And we're here about 9,000 feet in elevation, and we're looking for healing medicinal plants. When we go out into this area, we start out by offering tobacco and or cornmeal to the plants, Mother Earth, the Father Sky, and the four directions. One of the main plants we're looking for is Osha, which is also known as chuchupate. And chuchupate is a very strong healing medicine and a natural antibiotic.
Some of the other plants that we use, a universal plant that's used in China, it's used all over North America, is a plant called Ligusticum porteri, or osha root. Each nation of Indian tribes throughout the country have a species of Ligusticum that they utilize as a ceremonial, a symbolic, and a ritual use, ritual medicine. But it's also a very, very strong analgesic for the throat. It has mild antiviral properties, and oftentimes when I'm traveling for long distances and feeling a little bit tired, I'll suck on the root.
We're also looking for yerba de burro up here for the stubborn men and women that like to drink but also want to be healed from their alcohol problems and their liver problems. I'd like to offer some tobacco to my sisters, yerba de burro, otherwise known as thistle, a healing plant. It's as tough as the people that drink it. Will clean your blood. Will heal your liver. The common cold is a very interesting thing to heal. We usually use the very tips and the bark of a willow just to relieve the aches and pains of the physical body. And then we'll take some osha and coda and make a good strong tea out of it, and that will relieve the congestion in a person's chest. It will also warm their body up and help fight the infection, the viral infection.
This is a common weed growing in the Hopi Reservation, along the Navajo Reservation, roadsides in New Mexico and Arizona. It's called Philospermum gracilis, that's a scientific name. The common name in Spanish is called cota. In Hopi, they call it hohoisi. In Navajo, they call it chilawe. And it's a really nice, delicious beverage tea. And a lot of times during pregnancy, women have to be very, very careful as to what they ingest, and they can't take a lot of herbs. But this is a very, very safe plant during pregnancy, and the Hopi women give this to their pregnant daughters when they have high blood pressure.
A lot of the remedies that might be used would be familiar to people in their own household. I mean, garlic is a remedy that commonly used by Asians for hundreds of years to lower blood pressure, for example.
This is a plant that we call, a common name is swamp root, or in Spanish they call it yerba del manso. Yerba meaning herb, manso of the swamp. This plant grows, its scientific name is Anemopsis californica, but it grows in Arizona. Not abundantly, but in many swampy areas. And this is a root that is used as an antiseptic, a topical antiseptic, and also internally, you can drink it as a tea to soothe the pain of ulcers.
This is a plant called mullein, and mullein is very, very good for asthmatics. And it's also good for people with any lung congestion. Comfrey is used as an edible and a medicinal. Comfrey is one of the plants that will help heal bruises like arnica montana. And comfrey is also one to clear up bones and digestive disorders such as ulcers. This is a plant called ephedra, and in Arizona we have about 6 varieties of the species ephedra, and there's a similar plant that grows in China that they call ma huang. We call this, sometimes it's called Mormon tea or Indian tea. This plant, if you brew it up into a tea, makes a delicious beverage. It's also a bronchial dilator and a central nervous system stimulant. You can use this as a substitute for coffee. It's good for as a remedy for sinuses, congestion, and they've used it extensively in the Southwest as a blood purifier. One of the things that I use cedar for is when somebody that comes to my house that has very dark energy, I like to burn cedar to clear the house away. And this is nature's first Band-Aid. This is what we call the pitch of pinon pine. Things that I make with this pinon sap is a cream that I use for diabetics who has a lot of circulation problem. This is very antiseptic. You collect it, you can either take it right off the trees or get it right on the ground and warm it up and apply it topically if you have a cut or an open wound or a sore. And it's very, very soothing and healing, and it acts like a Band-Aid, very antiseptic. You can also take a little bit of it and put it in your mouth and just dissolve it between your cheek and gum, and it acts as a nice, mild expectorant. This is yerba buena, and yerba buena has been used throughout New Mexico for thousands of years. It's a very soothing, calming tea. I also use it on my ear cones that I make.
Ear coning is a centuries-old way to relieve earache, to fight infection and remove toxins and wax from inside the ear. Tapered cones of muslin are inserted into the ear. The warm, dry smoke draws out excess fluids and wax, while the vaporized beeswax and the herbal essence of the smoke fight infection in the ear, the sinuses, and the lymph drainage system.
You'll find herbal remedies in many of the health food stores as well. Probably one of the ones that is the most common drug right now that's getting a lot of attention would be St. John's wort, which is sold in Europe actually in larger volumes than some of the major antidepressants, things like Prozac, for example.
St. John's wort, which is a very common plant in many areas, and in some places it's even considered a weed, but it has a nice effect on the central nervous system and on actually increasing serotonin in the brain. We use this also for premenopausal women and for premenstrual syndrome. It seems to take the edge off a little bit.
Well, echinacea is the coneflower, as I understand, which is in my wife's garden. It's a beautiful flower, and it's made into a tea, and it's used for many febrile syndromes, probably influenza, or the classical flu symptoms that people get, colds, and those kinds of things. It's been used for cramps and menstrual problems and that sort of thing.
Man's early medicine was a mixture of fact and folklore and superstition. If leaves looked like the liver, they were used to treat the liver. Yellow plants were good for jaundice, red ones for the blood. If a plant or a tea smelled bad or tasted bad, it had to be good for you. At first, early European settlers didn't trust the people they thought were savages and their remedies. They brought many of their own herbs and plants with them to the New World. But over time, they found that those available in the New World worked as well or better. And after a while, it became hard to know whose medicine was being used, Indian medicine or white man's medicine, or combinations of both.
I have come to see and understand that the American Indian and also South American Indian people gave the world well over 200 drugs that are now used in today's societies for different healing methods. Aspirin, painkillers, muscle relaxant, cure for scurvy, the cure for malaria. All of those remedies that are used today were in fact used by Indian people many, many, many centuries prior to Western civilization.
Indians were also prolific inventors. They developed syringes and the surgical uses of rubber and cotton. They had a vast knowledge of anesthetics and antiseptics. They knew how to set fractures. Almost every Indian culture believed that every mountain had a soul, every tree, every rock, every living creature. And the Great Spirit flowed through all, keeping nature and mankind in perfect balance. Religious belief and daily life were intertwined, embodied by the medicine men, the priests, the magicians, and the healers, whose knowledge and rituals were handed down through the centuries. The medicine bag was their symbol of their status and authority, in which they carried their healing secrets. And even today, with everything we know, there are still many things we can't explain. Their secrets remain intact.
Well, really interesting find recently here in New Mexico is a pair of baskets that turned up in a crevice tucked away in the Galisteo Basin, east and south of Santa Fe, right near a large pueblo that was occupied in the 17th century both by Puebloan Indians and by an Hispanic occupation, which included a mission at the pueblo. The baskets are long and skinny. They're of a style that really doesn't occur in New Mexico. They have little attachments on the end, and they're sort of like a Ziploc bag with a seam down the middle, and it closes up nice and tight when it's under some kind of pressure, like if it was slung over your shoulder. So they're perfect for traveling healer. And what is just astounding and nifty about those baskets is what's in them. It's full of perishables, which have survived because they were in a dry cave. And they're little bundles of roots, all tied up with nice little ties. So we know that they were special things set aside in little sort of packages, and sometimes in combination with each other to give you an idea that they belong together and were used together.
Since the roots and plants were combined, or ground into powders or potions, or brewed as tea, we would call them prescriptions. And today, as herbal remedies gain more acceptance, they are gathered in quantity, mass-produced, and sold in health food stores.
Many years ago when I started selling herbal medicine, what I found is that very few doctors believed in it. They all thought we were quacks. There's been a complete reversal in the last 20 years.
But 1 in 4 Americans, or maybe 1 in 3 Americans, use an alternative remedy very, very frequently. And what I'm trying to do as a physician is to educate my patients to tell me about this, because some of these modalities are very powerful. And they're not things that necessarily are unsafe or safe, as the case may be in the individual patient. But if I'm prescribing medications, I want to know about what my patients are taking that are herbal in nature, or that are being, some sort of other form of therapy, so I can find out what it is that's likely to interact.
Also, the patients feel that it's closer to the earth, and there's a movement toward this going back toward the earth. And so as people try herbs, they find that it works. If they do get the results, there's less side effects, and next time they want to go that route again.
Some people with serious illness wouldn't consider anything less than full scientific treatment: surgery, chemicals, radiation. Others do little or nothing. No one treatment or method is any more right than any other. It comes down to what's right for each person. In our culture, we've been conditioned to be wary of anything that can't be scientifically proved.
We know some of these things work, but we don't have a good theory for why it works. We can't easily accept Ayurvedic medicine and all of the ways it's been explained for centuries, because it doesn't fit with our scientific logic. yet it seems to work.
Of course, the people who developed early medicine weren't all that concerned about logic. The business of daily living gave them enough to worry about. Exercise was part of it. They were not sedentary. They used their bodies. They hunted, they grew crops, they made everything they wore. Rains came and the corn grew, because the Great Spirit willed these things to be so. The animals that worked for them and provided their food were at one with the Great Spirit, which was at the center of their lives. Their lives and their medicine derived from their oneness with the earth and with the Spirit.
And I think that's really what people are craving. They don't want to be treated as a broken machine, that somebody's going to fix the parts. They want to be a person. They want to be a person in a family, in a context of a broader community, and they want to be seen that way in their totality, in their wholeness. And I think that native healers do that.
Well-being and wellness is total body, mind, spirit. It's holistic. It's not just about a physical ailment and treating a physical ailment. There's other aspects to it that all integrate in to make a whole circle, to make a whole, complete person well.
All the way through the Eastern religions, the old religions, you'll find the same concept. Cleansing the body, balancing the body, keeping it in harmony with the sky, the waters, the earth, Mother Earth, who gave us birth, and the Great Spirit, Isagadamazi, who gives us the life force. And this balance is health. Without that balance, we have disease.
Heat and smoke and ritual are still very much a part of Native American healing.
If you've ever been to a spa where they have a sauna, that is a takeaway from the old Indian sweat lodge. First, it has a physiologic effect. It cleanses the pores of the body. The body will excrete toxins and cleanse the body chemically. This helps promote health to this manner. This is enhanced by the intake of certain clean water, clean food. Of course, they did not have a fire inside the sweat lodge, which was in certain tribes made out of wood and mud. In certain tribes it's used like a teepee. And then you go into the southwestern tribes, they actually had these subterranean sweat lodges where you went down a ladder into under the ground, and it was encased in bedrock of some form. But it was an enclosed circle, and stones were heated and put in to promote sweats, to cleanse the body, and also to induce spiritual healing.
Native Americans believed then, and believe now, that when the body works in harmony with nature, when the natural rhythms of the body and spirit work together, it's that energy that makes one whole.
In our native stomp dances, in our habits of the native tribes in, say, Oklahoma, or in our homelands in Georgia, or South Carolina, or if you're Iroquois, or Sioux, or whatever, when you get into rhythm with nature, then your body becomes healthier, your mental stress is relieved, and you become a whole person spiritually and physically.
Spiritual belief has always been very much a part of physical well-being. If people believe they can stay healthy, they can. If they believe they can get well, their chances are improved. And modern medicine, so-called traditional medicine, is finding ways to accommodate cultural differences.
Now that America is becoming more plural all the time, and we're seeing a lot of Southeast Asians in our community, we're seeing lots of Kurdish refugees, we're seeing all kinds of different peoples, we're finding to be culturally competent and take care of patients in a patient-centered way that they value. We have to become students of those cultures, and we have to understand and be open to those cultures. And the culture that's most hidden and almost invisible in this country has been that of the American Native. And yet it has a rich, rich heritage, and it has a lot to give us in return for us just learning and listening to our patients. Many times patients don't trust the traditional system, and they won't tell you these things. And I don't blame them, actually, because they're looked at as though they're not intelligent if they believe these things. And somehow we've got to get away from that so that they can, they can honor their traditions, and we can also practice good Western medicine as well.
The healing is that it's so magnificent, beautiful, is that if you could walk on this life with harmony, bring that harmony and share it out with love. When you share it out with love, every tool you need for that healing process in your life, it will be there for you.
So we've come full circle. The renewed interest in natural medicine is literally a return to our roots. At one time, natural healing was all there was. It worked, and that was enough. Today, it's an accepted alternative. Is it better? Well, that's up to each individual and each individual's needs. We know more today, but the questions remain. What are the best ways to treat illness? Or better yet, to keep from getting sick? Natural remedies? Synthetics? Lifestyle changes? Or combinations of all of them? Those who passed their knowledge along to us had no more access to truth than any other peoples. Their knowledge was vast, but not perfect. We've learned much from them about natural healing. And by combining today's needs with their ancient wisdom, we may be entering a more balanced approach to healthier ways of living.
Before the buffalo were wiped out, the Assiniboine people ate buffalo meat, and they were healthy. Now with fast food and everything, we have problems like heart disease and diabetes. I'm going to college to learn the business of raising buffalo so we can get back to the old way of eating. Why did you go to college?
The American Indian College Fund, educating the mind and spirit.